All right. Better late than never edition of the Daf Yomi. It is a zchus to be able to learn tonight. Daf Tzadi Ches Amud Aleph, 6 lines down, 7 lines down. V'kama Amud be noticed. We are sponsored this evening, not last evening, but extra bonus for our sponsor is this evening is in honor of his late grandmother's birthday. Shua Merovich is our sponsor, and his grandmother is Chaya Henya Bas Baruch Lifshitz. Her birthday is tonight, the 5th of Iyar, and as is Israel's birthday, and right, and so her neshama should have an aliyah with our learning, and thank you so much to Shua for the sponsorship. All right, let's get some learning done. The Kama Ama Beinonis. We had talked yesterday about two types of amos, right? We had the types of amos that were 5 tfachim. We had types of amos that are 6 tfachim. We called the ones that were 6 tfachim the beinonis, the medium ones. So the kama ama beinonis, how much is a medium ama? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, it says shisha tfachim. They might knock at my door, by the way, and give me a key. So if they knock on my door, I might jump up to answer the door in a second. So
no problem.
Lack of professionalism, but it's okay. So
you just recorded, but they just recorded you saying that.
So I'm saying, well, you know what? This is real life. This is real life. Daf Yomi is about real life. Our Rabbi Yossi Barab says, Af Ananami Tanina. We also learned in a Mishnah. Rabbi Meir Omer. Rabbi Meir says, a shulchan arkosh shnei masar v'rach moshisha. The Rabbi Meir said the shulchan was 12 by 6, and of course the Torah uses the measurements 1 amma by 2 amos. So 12 by 6 would make it 6 tfachim in an amma. Now, if you've got medium amos, and those are 6 tfachim, that means there's a bigger amma someplace. The answer is yes, there is. V'hotnan, we learned in a Mishnah, Meseches Kelim, Shtei amos hayu b'Shushan Habira. In Shushan Habira was a room that they had in the Beis Hamikdash. It was by the eastern gate, and on that door they had a mural or something that looked like it was a representation of Shushan. And they had that there because Rashi explains that during the second Beis Hamikdash, we got brought back Daryavesh, who was the king, who was Esther's son, right? So he was the one who allowed the Jews to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash as Hakaras HaTov, or because we were still subjects of the Persian Empire, or to remember the fact that Hashem took us out from Persia. We had a Shushan Habira in the Beis Hamikdash, a little replica of the Shushan Habira in this room, and that was what they called it, the Shushan Habira room. So they had in that room 2 measurements that were amos. They didn't have 2 amos; they had 2 measurements, 2 sticks. They had the official sticks that were 1 amma long, and there were 2 different versions of it. Achas al Keren Mizrachas Tzfonis. One of them was on the northeast corner. Achas al Mizrachas Dromis. One was on the southeast corner. Shal Keren Mizrachas Tzfonis. The one that was on the northeast corner, Yisera al Shal Moshe, it was more than Moshe's Amma by Chatzias, by half a figure. Yehuda, you have a question on Amos.
Yeah. Shushan Habira, what part of the Beis Hamikdash was that? Was it on the north side or south side?
It's on the east side. It's a chamber, a room. Hopefully I'll be able to point it out when we get to when we come back and take a look at our plastic model to be able to say sort of where it was. It says here that it was above the eastern gate of the on the eastern gate of the courtyard, right? So that was the Shar Nicanor. So it might have been above that. There was a room above that area, and that's where that was located. So in any event, the first Amma was half a finger's breadth bigger than 6 tfachim, or Moshe Rabbeinu's. Shal Keren Mizrachas Dromis Haisa Yisera Aleha Chatzi Etzva. And the one that was in the southeast was even more by another half a finger's breadth. Nimtzeis Yisera Shal Moshe Etzva, which made it 1 full finger's breadth longer than Moshe's Amma. V'lama Amru Achas Gedol V'Achas Ketana. Why did they say one was large and one was small? Why did they need that? Why do you need 2 different size amos? An amma is an amma. Why are you measuring 2 different ones? Kedei sheyehu ha'uman no'utlin umachzirin b'gedola kedei shelo yavo'u lidei me'ila. The issue is like this. The workers would guarantee that they would, let's say they would perform a service, they would come back and they would say, we're going to give you 2 amos length of something, right? So they would promise to pay with the official amma, but when they would actually deliver the goods, they would use the slightly larger amma. And the reason why they used the amma that was slightly larger is because if they were off and provided less than they were supposed to, they would be stealing from the Beis Hamikdash, committing me'ilah, and that's a big avera. So therefore, they would always overestimate slightly when they would deliver the goods. So therefore, that's why they used the amma that was a slight, half a finger's breadth bigger, to be able to make sure that they would over deliver rather than under deliver. But tarti lamali. So why did they need two of these measurements that were both oversized? Chada lekaspa v'dahava v'chada lebinyana. One was for the gold and silver things that were being delivered, and one was just for other building materials. So I just allowed myself into the room. I'm not quite sure what happened. And maybe Ellie is out and he's back in. In any event.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So, right. So what happens is that if I'm delivering gold is very expensive. So if I go a full finger's breadth extra, then that is going to be expensive. So therefore, when they were delivering gold and silver, they used the half a finger extra. But when they're delivering other building materials, they used a full finger's extra. Okay, so that's why they had that was why it was the Beinonis. They had the small amos, the medium amos, and the extra large amma. Tanan Hasam. We learned in a Mishnah about the menorah. I'm sorry. We're learning the Mishnah over there about the person who was appointed, not the menorah, the monad, the person who was appointed on the gates of the Beis Hamikdash. So his job was he would get up Shar HaMizrach, he would get up on the eastern gate, Allah Shushan Abir Tzura, where the picture of Shushan Abira was. My time, what is the reason it was there? Rav Chisda, Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi, Rav Yitzchak and Rav Chisda and Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi both said, Chad Amar, Kedei Sheyedu Mehechan Ba'u, so that they would know where they came from. Right? Where are we from? Right? Know our humble origins. And the other one is to remember that you are subject to another king. You're not free. You're subject to the Persian Empire. So they put that as well. Rabbi Yanai says, Leonte emas malchus alecha. A person has to be fearful of the king. Right? You have to give respect and honor to your government. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, V'yardu kol avadecha ela elai v'shtachvu lemur. When Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Paro, he's threatening him and says, "You guys are all your people are going to come and bow down to me, and they're going to tell me to leave." And Moshe did not mention that Paro was going to do the same, because that would have been disrespectful. That Paro, you're going to come and bow down to me. You're going to beg me to leave, right? So he did not treat Paro in that way, even though Paro was evil, right? He's the king, and so therefore Malchus, kingship, deserves some kind of respect, no matter what. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mehacha. Rabbi Yochanan says from here, Shnamar, pasuk says, V'yad Hashem haisa el Eliyahu v'yeshanes masnav v'yaretz lifnei Achav ad boacha Yisraela. So the evil king Achav was always in a conflict, a big conflict with Eliyahu, but nevertheless, when Eliyahu Hanavi was when Achav was traveling, Eliyahu Hanavi got ready and he ran in front of him in order to provide escort. And despite the fact that one might think that why should he be respecting such an evil king? The answer is a king is a king, right? So Yehuda wants to know, why did Moshe argue with Hashem? Was it out of respect? So that's a good question. Moshe Rabbeinu does argue with Hashem in a couple of places, and he does do it respectfully. And also he was aware that Hashem would want him to do so, right? Hashem appreciates that Moshe Rabbeinu is defending Klal Yisrael because Klal Yisrael is also Hashem's children. So he would want that. Okay, so now the next thing that we are going to discuss, another machlokas between Rav Chisda and Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi. Since we brought their names up, let's bring up something else that they argue about. So in Sefer Yechezkel, we talked about the third Beis Hamikdash. One of the features of the third Beis Hamikdash is a stream that comes out small from the Kodesh HaKodashim, and it gets larger and larger. Normally streams, as they flow, right, they don't get larger. It gets larger and larger. And on the boundaries of this river will grow some trees. And the trees will have healing properties. Va'alehu l'trufa, as it says, that the fruit is edible and the leaves are medicine. So Rav Chisda, Rav Yitzchak, Rav Dimi. So here's where Rav Yitzchak, Rav Chisda, Rav Yitzchak, Rav Dimi argue, what is it that this medicine was used for? Chad Amar lahatir peshel amala. One says people who would be mutes, who couldn't speak, would get healed. V'chad Amar lahatir peshel amata. One says it was for people who were having trouble having babies, right? It would be able to help them become pregnant. Itmar, it has been said, Chizkiah says, Lahatir Peh Ilmim, Bar Kapara, Lahatir Peh Akaros, same thing, Chizkiah and Bar Kapara have the same argument, whether the purpose of the leaves was to heal people who couldn't speak, or whether it was to heal people who couldn't have children. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learned, right, as far as how the table, how the bread on the shulchan was set up. Ilu Nemar, if the pasuk had only said, right, the pasuk says you're taking 12 loaves, two stacks of 6. Okay. Ilu Nemar, I don't know, why do I need all of those descriptions? If the pasuk had said, if it only told me 2 of those instructions, one, there are 12 loaves, and you're going to make 2 stacks, and it didn't tell me that each stack had to have 6, I might have said, I could have 4 and 8, right? Why do they have to be even? So therefore, that's why the Torah has to say they have to be even stacks of 6. If it told me 2 stacks, and it told me 2 stacks of 6, it didn't tell me that the total was 12. That might have thought that I could have 3, right? Just as you have 2 that are 6, I could have a third one that's 6 if I want to keep adding. Therefore, it says 12 total. If it told me 12 umarachos, and then it told me stacks, it didn't tell me how many stacks. So it just would have said, if it didn't say sheish, I would have thought shlosh shel arba arba might have made 3 stacks of 4. Lekach nemar, therefore it says shtayim v'sheish. Therefore it says 2 stacks of 6. Until the Torah told me all 3 of these things, lo lamadnu, I wouldn't have known how the stacks are supposed to go. So how do you do it? No, saying 2 stacks of 6 each. And if you make 1 stack 4, 1 stack 8, that is not valid. Not good. Now, shtayim shel sheva sheva. What if you make 2 stacks of 7? Right? What if you add on an extra one? What happens then? So Rebbe says, Rowan es Eliona kilaina, just means like the top one doesn't exist, right? It's just extra. It doesn't do anything, right? If you had 6 and then I put like something else on top, it means nothing. Well, the issue is, what about the bazichin? Where are you putting the frankincense? You're supposed to put it on the top of the stack. So v'haba'in and vinasata al, how you put it on top of the stack? There's another loaf of bread that's in the way. So Amar Rav Chisda Rav Hamnuna, so Rav Chisda said Rav Hamnuna, V'amri lo Rav Hamnuna, Rav Chisda said it was the other way. Rav Hamnuna said Rav Chisda, Rebbe l'tamei. Rebbe is going according to his own reason to Amar al. B'samach. Rebbe is saying this because he holds that the word al doesn't mean literally on. Al could mean next to. And therefore the bazichin were not put on the loaves of bread at all. They were put on the table next to the bread. And so therefore having a 7th loaf of bread would not bother us. Titania is we're in a brisa. Rebbe says, you should put on the stack frankincense, right? Al, but on means besamach, next to. You don't put it on the bread, according to Rebbe. You put it next to. Atam al besamach. You say al means next to. Oh, in al mamish. How do you know it doesn't mean on? Really, like really on it. Keshomer, the pasuk says v'sakosa al arones al parochas. Says that you're supposed to, when they put up the Mishkan, that you're supposed to hang the parochas. You're supposed to put the parochas on top of the aron, but the parochas, the curtain, doesn't go on top of the aron; it goes in front of next to the aron. So therefore, Haviyomer al besamach. That's how I know the word al means next to, right? Because I didn't put the parochas on top of it. I stood it up, and then I put the aron next to it. Okay, next. Kol kelim sheba migdash. Hayu omdim. Kol kelim sheba migdash. We said that all of the utensils in the base of migdash were going according to the lengthwise of the Beis Hamikdash. We know that the Beis Hamikdash is a rectangle, and each of the utensils were also rectangular. They were placed along the long side of the Beis Hamikdash, right? So if you had a keli that was 1 by 2, it went 2 amos along the long side. Here, where do I've got my? Hang on a second. I've got. If I can find my whiteboard here. Whiteboard's here. New whiteboard. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Here is my Beis Hamikdash. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay, good. So there's my Beis Hamikdash, right? So this is my. I could put my shulchan this direction, not the other way, not this direction, right? It goes lengthwise, not widthwise. Okay, that's what's going on here. Now, okay, let's. Can I make squares? Because if I make squares, that would be easier. All right, I can't make squares. I'll just draw.
No.
Probably can't, but right? I can't. That's okay. Okay. I don't know how to use where the eraser is either.
Oh yeah, shape. Yeah, I think you can.
Laser voting timing, right? Shapes.
Oh, sorry.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
This is a square. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you could probably resize it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, see something like that. Well,
all right. That's pretty good. All right, we'll figure that out. Taner Rabbanan, we learned. Kol kelim shebemikdash, all the utensils of the Beis Hamikdash, arkon le'arkol shalbayis. The lengthwise was lengthwise in the Beis Hamikdash. Chutz me aron. The only exception is in the aron. I'm going to bring my whiteboard back up here a second. Here, let's bring a new one. Right. The only one that would be different is the aron. The aron was. Whoop, I'm trying to draw fast, and my hand is in the way. Right, here's my Beis Hamikdash again, and this is my curtain here. The aron was this direction, not like the shulchan, which was this direction, and the menorah, which was also this direction. Okay, that looks like a face, but in any event, this is where the aron is, facing the other way. Now, why the kach hayamunach, the kach hayubadav munachim, and that's how it was placed, and that's how the what do you call it? How the what do you call it? How the poles were placed, right? If I've got I'm going to hold up my phone. This is my demonstration, right? If I've got my aron like this, the poles were along the short side, right? They went like this along the short side. Not along the long. They didn't go like this. I don't remember how it was in Indiana Jones, right? But the pole, right?
That's what I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Right. The poles are on the long.
From which movie?
Indiana
Raiders
Jones.
of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
So the poles are along the short side, not along the long side.
I think they had it the other way around. I could be mistaken. Yeah.
That's what right. So that's how they go. Okay, so we're clear on that. So now, my kamar, what are we saying? Hachi kamar. The Bryce say kach hayamunach midebadav kach hayumunachim. Right. The reason why, what is the Bryce trying to say? The reason why all the other kelim are turned this way, this one's turned this way. Why? Because the poles, the way the poles were, the poles had to run east-west. So therefore, they had to go along the way the aron was created, it was set up so that the poles. I'm going to pull up again. Hang on a second. More whiteboards. Right. This is my aron, like this. Since the poles are along this way, therefore it had to be turned east to west. Right? So that's the way that it was. So now, why not? It would be badav minol. And how do I know that the poles were on the short side? Did Tanya, because the Brisa says, vayarichu abadim, that they put up the poles. Yachol lo hayu nogin beparochas. So they set up the poles along the lengthwise, right? That's vayarichu orich, along the lengthwise of the Beis Hamikdash. So maybe the poles didn't quite reach the parochas, right? The area of the inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim was 10 amos by 10 amos. But the pasuk says, vayira'u, they were seen. The ends of the poles were able to be seen through the parochas. If it says that they were seen, maybe there was a tear, an opening, and the poles stuck right through the parochas. They were not seen from outside. So haketzon, how do you accomplish both things, right? How do you make it so that it's both that they were visible and not visible at the same time? So on Tzadi Chesam and Beis, Dochakin uboltin baparochas. They pressed up against the curtain from this side so that you could see the bulge from the other side. You could see the poles push into the curtain from the other side. And what was it like? It was domen kamin shnei dodim beisha, like a woman's chest. Shenamar tzerur hamor dodi li bein shadai yalin, to remind us that Hashem is our beloved, that he sustains Kahal Yisrael like a mother sustains the children, right? So therefore, we see it that way. How do I know? Then, okay, great. I understand that the poles had to be established that way so that they would poke against the parochas. How do I know that the poles were on the short side? So the answer is maybe the poles were on the long side, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Amar Rav Yehuda says, Trei Gavri ba'amso paga lo mistagiluhu. Remember that the Aron is only 1.5 amos wide, right? It's only this wide. You can't fit two people on the. You had the way the Aron was carried. The Aron was carried by 4 people, each standing on the inside of the poles. If you had this much space, you couldn't fit 2 people that way. So if you put it on the long side, you had 2.5 amos. So you had enough space for 2 people. So how do I know that there were 4 people carrying it? The pasuk says, "V'nasu ha'kehasim," the kehasim carried it. Trey, that's 2. No, say hamikdash, the ones who carried the holy, that's not mitra, that's 2 more. So therefore, there were 4 people carrying it. You needed space in between, so the poles were on the short sides, so that the width of the Aron was in between. Tanarab on our Rabbi said, they have a picture even. Picture. See if we can see that there, right? I don't know if that's visible. My light is not so great.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right? 4 people. Okay, that's the way it was carried. Tanarabana. This way, okay. Tanarabana. Our rabbis learned as follows. Asar shulchanos, also Shlomo Melech. Okay, to make things more complicated, in the Beis Hamikdash, Shlomo HaMelech made 10 extra shulchans. They only had 1 in the Mishkan, 1 shulchan, 1 menorah. Shlomo comes along, builds a Beis Hamikdash, he puts 10 there. Okay, so Shinamar, as the pasuk says, Vayas shulchanos asara, he made 10 shulchanos. Vayanach behecha, and he put them in the Beis Hamikdash. Chamisha miyamin v'chamisha mismol, 5 to the right and 5 to the left. Now, what does that mean? Im tomar chamisha mimin haPesach v'chamisha mismol haPesach. If it was, as you walk in, 5 were to your right and 5 were to the left, that's a problem, because im kain matzinu shulchan bedorom, you would wind up with the shulchan on the south side of the Beis Hamikdash, and it wasn't. The shulchan is supposed to specifically be on the north side, and the menorah is on the south side. So v'Torah amra v'shulchan titinat tzalatzafon. The shulchan is supposed to go on the north side. Ella, so rather, what it means is shel Moshe be'emtza v'chamisha mimino v'chamisha b'smolo. Moshe Rabbeinu's was in the middle, and they put 5 Shlomo Melech ones on the right side and 5 on the left side. So there are 11 total menorahs. Moshe's in the middle. Okay. Tana Rabbanan Rizor. Eser menorahs also Shlomo. Shlomo also made 10 menorahs. Shnemar's pasuk says, "Vayas menorahs eser." He made 10 menorahs. Kamishpat. According to the way that they're supposed to be made, Vayitain b'heichal, they put them into the Beis Hamikdash. Chamisha miyamin v'chamisha mismol. 5 to the right, 5 to the left. V'im tomer chamisha miyamin haPesach, 5 to the right of the doorway. and v'chamisha mismol Pesach, and 5 to the left of the doorway. Im kein matzinu menorah b'tzafon, then you'd wind up again with the same problem, menorah on the right side, on the north side of the Beis Hamikdash. That's not supposed to happen. Torah Amra, the Torah says, Ves HaMenorah nochach HaShulchan, the menorah is supposed to be opposite the Shulchan, on the south side. Ella shel Moshe b'em. So what it means is Moshe's was in the middle, v'chamisha mimino, v'chamisha mismol, and 5 to the left and 5 to the right of it. Tani chata. So one brisa says, Mechatzi beis bayis v'lifnim hayumunachin. All of the menorahs were halfway through the heichal. Okay, so I'm gonna keep bringing up my whiteboards. Okay, I've got my here. Okay, if I've got my heichal like this is my heichal. Okay. So, and here's my parochas, which cuts off here, right? This is the Kodesh HaKadoshim here, the Kodesh HaKadoshim down here, and the Kodesh is up here. So one brisa tells me that all of the menorahs and shulchans were on the from halfway. They were halfway in the bias and inward. So that means, let's say I would divide this in half, right? I'm sure colors somewhere. Okay, whatever it is, be pen. Halfway and inwards. Okay, so from halfway, they all fit in this side. Okay, and then the other side says they were a third of the way in. So how are you explain? One says half, one says a third. So lokasha, it's not a contradiction. Mar kachoshev base kodshei hakodesh behadei heichal. One says, right, the whole Beis Hamikdash was 40 by the Beis Hamikdash was 60 by 20. So 60 long, 20 wide. Okay. So what happens is that that one opinion is taking a look and saying that if I count the whole 60, right? So half of the the menorahs were on the 20 amos, which were the interior part of the heichal, which is half of the heichal space. The heichal is 40 by 20. So if everything fit on the 20 amos closer to the parochas, that's halfway. And the other one, Mar lokachoshev beis kodshei hakodesh behadei heichal. The other one says that we're only count. So the other one says, well, it's 60. So if it all fit within 20, that's a third. So it all depends on if you're counting. It basically all fit within that 20 amos. But if you're counting 20 out of 40, it's half. Counting 20 out of 60, it is a third. So therefore, that's what there's no real argument there. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learned. Mizrach umariv hayumunachim. Okay, so now this brisa is going to disagree with our Mishnah. We said all our Mishnah, it said that the Shulchan was facing east-west, right? We know east-west means lengthwise. This one, so one opinion says that all of them were facing Mizrach umariv hayumunachim. All the Shulchanos were facing east-west. Divrei Rabbi, that's what Rabbi says. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says no. Tzafon v'darom. They were facing not this way, sideways, north-south. My time made Rabbi. What is Rabbi's reasoning? Gemar mi menorah. We're learning the Shulchan from the menorah. So ma menorah mizrach marav. The menorah was facing east to west. Af hani nami mizrach marav. So too, the tables are also facing east to west. O menorah gufa. The menorah itself, minol, and how do I know it was facing east-west? Because the answer is Midechsiv. The pasuk says, "Bener ma'aravi yarochos ha'aron." There was a last candle, the western candle, and if there's a western candle, which was lifnei Hashem, that was the candle that was close to the parochas, the western candle. So therefore, if there's a western candle, the menorah must have been facing east-west, so that one candle was closer to the west. Because the kulahu lav lifnei Hashem, the other ones were not as close to Hashem. Okay, if the menorah was facing north-south, Kulunami lifnei Hashem ninhu. Then all the candles are the same distance from the parochas. They're parallel because the menorah is parallel to the parochas. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, my taima. What Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says, what is his reason that the shulchanos were facing north? Why is he saying north-south? Gemar me'aron. He says, because the aron was facing that direction. Remember, the aron was facing the other way. Ma'aron tzafon v'darom, just like the aron was north-south facing. Afhaninami tzafon v'darom. So too, all the rest of the utensils should also be north-south facing. Rabbi Nami and Ligmar me'aron. Why doesn't Rabbi learn it from the aron? The answer is Danan chutz michutz. No, because we got to learn the outside from the outside. The shulchan is placed just like the menorah is placed. And the menorah, we know how that's placed. We're not going to learn that the shulchan is placed the same way the aron is placed, because the aron is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Different rules. For Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar says, Ligmar mi menorah. Why doesn't he say that we're going to place the shulchan just like the menorah? So Marlach, he'll say, menorah gufei tzafra v'darha mancha. He says, because he holds the menorah was placed north-south. So how do you explain the fact that it says that Aaron placed it and he had the western candle, which was closest, and therefore that seems to imply that there was one candle that was more western than all the other ones? The answer is that they set it up so that all of the wicks faced the middle, and the middle wick faced back west. That's what there's a picture of the menorah in Rashi, right? See on there, all the wicks are facing the middle. The middle wick is facing west. And so that is the difference. Also, some say the source for where Rashi, we said, has the curved lines of the menorah. We said that the Rambam drew his picture straight. And here it looks like, I'm not sure who drew Rashi's picture here, whether that was a publisher or what, but that's the difference. Titania Raisa. All towards the face of the menorah, all of the candles the 7 candles shall light. To tell us that all of the wicks were always facing the middle. Rabbi Nassan says, that's how I know that the middle candle is the best one, right? The middle is the best. So as far as other halachos are concerned, Toso says, for example, when a Talmid Chacham is walking, one person should walk on his right, one person should walk on his left. So fine, I understand according to the opinion that says that the shulchanos were placed east to west. Remember, we had 10 shulchanos we've got to fit. Each shulchan is 2 amos long. So you've got 20 amos to fit it in. Okay, that's great. You have 10 tables times 2. That gives you 20, and that fits in the space. But if you turn it the other way, and now they're going this direction, so then asara be'esrim heichi haviyasvu. The width of the Beis Hamikdash is 20 amos. If you put all the tables all the way across, it's going to literally go from wall to wall. It is impossible to fit something that perfectly, right? If it was exact, right, it's not going to fit. You've got to leave a little bit of space. So you don't have that problem if you turn it north, east, west. Turn east, west, because on the one side, you have empty space. So it's easy. Even if it went, Rashi says, even if it went a little bit into the other half, into the eastern half of the Azara, it's not a problem. But turning it the other way, you're literally going wall to wall with no space between the shulchanos. It's not going to fit. And furthermore, how would the Kohanim have gotten around to the other side of the table? The whole Beis Hamikdash is blocked. And furthermore, furthermore, what about the problem that half of the tables, if you're going straight across, 5 of them are going to be on the south side, and 5 of them are going to be on the north side. And not only that, where did Moshe's table go? We have 11 tables, not 10. So we're going to fit Moshe Rabbeinu's table. So ulatamech, what? You think it's better if you turn it the other way? It's still not so good. Laman da Amar Mizrach Marav, if they're going north-south, how are you fitting 10 tables how are you fitting 11 tables in 20 amos? Doesn't fit. So Nami, Shulchan de Moshe, where'd they put Moshe Rabbeinu's table? Ella, rather, mi savras chad dorahava, it wasn't all in one row. They had multiple rows. Trey Dori Ninhu. They put it in 2 rows. and that's how it fits, right? You've got some pictures here, I think, on Rashi and Top Tzadi Testament Aleph. So that is there's west to east, and then there's north to south. Here's how it worked. Fine. I understand, according to the opinion that says that they made 2 rows north to south facing, right? That is like the sideways H, right? So El Mandamar Mizrach Umarav, the one who said that they were facing east to west, so you have a problem. Because Mechti, let's count how we're lining up these tables. Okay. Half, remember, the whole width of the base of Migdash is 20 amos. So the north side is only 10 amos. You've got to fit the tables into 10 amos. So let's take a look at this. Shulchan kama moshech minakosel. How far away did you need to move the table away from the wall? Because you need to get, remember, 2 Kohanim are coming in holding these loaves. You need space for 2 people to walk. The Aron, we said, was 2.5 wide. That was space for 2 people to walk. So how far away from the wall do you have to be? Shtei amos umechza. You need to be 2.5 amos away from the wall to start with. So that's the first 2.5 amos. Then, va'ama didei. The shulchan itself is 1 amma. Then, shtei amos umechza de beini beini. Then you're going to wind up with 2.5 amos in between the table and the next time. Ushtei amos umechza de beini beini. So Amma. Now you're going to get Moshe's table, which is in the middle, we said. So that's going to be another Amma. Then you're going to wind up with Shtei Amos Umechza of the Beni Beni, another 2.5 Amos after Moshe's table. The Amma Didei, now you have an Amma for the last tables. Well, 2.5 plus 1 plus 2.5 plus 1 plus 2.5 plus 1 is 11 Amos. That is, 10.5 Amos. 10.5 Amos is too much. It's because half an amma is now on the south side. So that's not good. So mi savras the shulchan Moshe b'hadayu k'Yosef. Your mistake is that you think that Moshe Rabbeinu's table got put in middle. It didn't get in the middle. Lo, the midli limonachle, it was at the top. It was at the top. So therefore there was 2 rows and they had space in between, and then Moshe's was up at the top. Right? What was it like? Umitasi lahu ledidhu porto. It was above slightly to the east side. It was to the west side, right? They would move, so they moved the other tables to the east side a little bit so that you would leave a space for that. And the formation was like students sitting before their teacher, right? You got the shulchan on the top and all the little shulchanos underneath. Rashi has a picture, right? Down halfway, right? Rashi's got his picture there, right? Where we've got 1 table on top. Blurry camera, but yeah. Okay. It's okay. But yeah, 1 table on top and the other ones in front of it. Good. And that's how it fit. Tana Rabbanan. Our rabbis on Sar Shulchanos also Shlomo. Shlomo Melech made 10 tables. What's the function of this? Nothing. Decorative. Lo hayu misadrin ela al Shlomo. They only put the bread on Moshe Rabbeinu's table. Shneimar Pasuk says, "V'esa shulchan shalav lechem apanim zahav." The shulchan that the shulchan that was gold that the lechem apanim was on. Now the 1 shulchan, only 1 got bread. Esther menorahs asa Shlomo. Shlomo also made 10 menorahs. Lo hayu madlikin ela b'shel Moshe. They only lit Moshe's, so therefore only 1 was lit. Shneimar Pasuk says, "Menorahs hazahav v'neirosel liva'er ba'erev." The menorah, the gold menorah, and its candles were burning at night. So Rabbi Elazar and Shmuel, Rabbi Elazar and Shua says, "Al kulam hayu misadrin." No, I don't agree. They put the bread on all of them. Shneimar Pasuk says, "V'esa shulchanos v'aleihem lechem apanim." On the tables, they would put the lechem apanim. So bekulan hayu madlikin, they would light all of the menorahs. Shneimar Pasuk says, "V'es hamenoros v'neiroseim levaram kamishpat lefnei hadavir zahav sagur." That they would light all of the menorahs to burn them being plural. Right? It was made out of beautiful gold. Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi says, Lo hayu misadrin el shemosh. Rabbi Yossi says, no, they only put the lechem panim on Moshe's. Elamani mikayim. So how do you explain the pasuk that says that there were multiple tables that had the lechem panim on it? That refers to the three tables whose purpose we will describe momentarily that were in the Beis Hamikdash. There were not extra lechem panim. Same lechem panim were put on three different tables. Shnayim shayu ba'ulam. Two of them were in the antechamber in the front, mi bifnim, lepesach habayis, right inside the doorway. Achad shel kesef, achad shel zahav. One was gold, one was silver, and it looked like this. So here is our antechamber and our Beis Hamikdash, like so. Okay, so we would put one shulchan here, one on the right side when you enter, one on the other side when you enter, and the main one where the lechem panim was put was here. Okay, so that is what was done. Okay, back to this. Perfect. Okay. So that's those are the tables that lechem panim put on. Not multiple lechem panim, but that was part of the procedure. We will see that procedure in a moment. Al kesef, right, on the silver one, nosing lechem panim b'knisa. So what they would do is when the kohanim were coming in, they would walk into the Beis Hamikdash. They'd come to that outer chamber. They would put the lechem panim, 12 loaves, onto the silver table. Ve'al shel zahav b'CSO. Then they would, when they were leaving, they would take the 6 breads from last week. They would put those on the gold table as they were leaving. Why did they have a silver table and a gold table? Why not 2 silver tables? So the answer is shemalin b'kodesh v'lo moridin. You always go up in kedusha, not down. So once you put it onto the main shulchan, which was made out of gold, you couldn't take it out and put it on silver. So echad shel zahav bifnim shalav lechem panim tamid. And then the other table, the third table, of course, is the main shulchan of the lechem panim. So that's the tables that they put the lechem panim on. Now, question is, I get it that the minola and de'en moridin. So we're supposed to go mal kedusha. How do I know that you're not supposed to go down in kedusha? Where do I see that? Where's that law from? Amar Rabbi says, Damar Pasuk says, Vayakam Moshe es Mishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu was putting up the Mishkan every day. Vayitain es Adanav. He placed in the bases. Vayasam es Kroshav. He placed the pillars. Vayitain es Brichav. And he put in the fasteners. Vayakam es Amudav. And he held up the pillars. So now, every single place, the Pasuk starts with Vayakam, right? Vayakam Moshe. He put it up. And at the end, Vayakam again. He's still putting it up. So that tells you that once you start off with Vayakam, you've got to go Vayakam the whole way, right? There's no such, you can't lower it, right? Rashi even says, Moshe Rabbeinu, once he put the curtain up, he didn't take the curtain down. He held it up while he was putting the rest of the pieces together so that he could hang the curtain on it. When we know into Malin, so how do I know that you're supposed to go up? I understand you can't go down. How do I know you have to go up? So you had to start at silver in order to get to gold. How come? Amar Rabbi Yacha Bar Yaakov. Rabbi Yacha Bar Yaakov says, Amar Kral, the Pasuk says, as machtos chatoim ha'ela benafsho sam. Korach and his rebellion, they each took they took 250 pans, and they lit ketoras on them. What did they do with them afterwards? They took them. They pounded them out of copper into a piece of copper, and they used them to plate the mizbeach with. They were used as sacrifices before Hashem. They became sanctified and they became used as a sign to Bnei Yisrael. Therefore, right? Therefore, batchila tashmish mizbeach. So at the beginning, they were used to serve the mizbeach. Therefore, v'achshav gufo shel mizbeach. Now they have to become part of the mizbeach. So then, let's also talk about yes, Dad.
So you say you have it say that table is silver, gold and silver.
Silver first, right? Silver first, then gold.
Okay. For some reason, I have that the lechem panim was on gold and marble tables on.
Oh, I know. The answer is You are correct, because if you turn to page Kuf, which is in upcoming, it tells us, the Mishnah tells us that the table wasn't silver, it was marble.
Okay.
But here it says silver, right?
Okay.
Rashi wants to know, why does it say silver when it means marble? And the answer is because silver is white like marble.
Okay.
But it was in fact marble. So that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Minolan Dein Mo Readin. Well, I went back a page. Sorry, turn back. Okay, good. Asher Shibarta V'Samtim Ba'aron. Another explanation where once something is a higher level of kedusha, it doesn't go down, right? The luchos that were Moshe Rabbeinu brought down, the first luchos, they broke, and they were still put into the aron, regardless of the fact that they were broken, right? A puzzle sefer Torah we leave in the aron, right? So don't take it out. Tani Rav Yosef learned Melamed she luchos v'shivrei luchos munachim baron. It tells us that both the full luchos and the broken luchos were placed in the aron. Mikan letamid chacham sheshachal tamudo mechmas onso. Also, this teaches us that a tamid chacham, if he forgets his learning and it's not his fault, shein noagon bo minhag bizarn, we don't treat him poorly, which is important because Rav Yosef, of course, is the one throughout the Gemara who did forget his learning, and he is quoting this because this is teaching defense himself. Yes, Yehuda.
So we know that they put that the broken luchos were put in the aron, but what did they use it for in the end?
They didn't use them. They put them in the aron and they left them there.
It was like storage, right?
Storage, exactly. You store them in the right place in the aron. Okay. So, Amar, are we good to keep going, or should we stop? Or I don't know if everybody has a hard stop at 10, or we'll go for another 10 minutes or so. Just to,
I think another 10 is, yep.
Our sponsor is joining us, so we may as well go on for a little bit.
That's right, absolutely.
Amar Reish Lakish says, Pamim shebitula shel Torah zeha yisuda. Sometimes stopping from learning is the foundation for learning of Torah. Dichsiv, the pasuk says, Asher shibarta. They had to break the luchos. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe Yesher Kocha shibarta. It was important that Moshe Rabbeinu break the luchos in order to establish for Klal Yisrael that what they were doing was wrong, in order to establish Torah more permanently, right? So sometimes, right, you have to stop learning, right? Take care of the shul, right? Take care of a mace. You have things you got to take care of. Go to work. Right? Sometimes you got to stop learning in order to sustain the Torah. So that is the lesson. Also, another lesson of the broken luchos. Reish Lakish says, Talmid Chacham shesarach, a Talmid Chacham that does an avera, ein mevazin also b'farhasi. You don't embarrass him publicly. Shneimar, the pasuk says, v'chashalta hayom v'chashal gam navi imcha laila, that you have stumbled today, and also the navi has stumbled at night. What does that mean? He stumbles at night. Kasehu kalayla. Cover it up, right? Don't spread it around. Keep it quiet like night. V'amar Reish Lakish says, Kol hamishakech davar echad mitamudo. Anybody who forgets something that they've learned over belav is violating a losase. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, Hishamar lechoshmor nafshecha me'od pentishkach hased dvarim. You have to make sure. Guard yourself, lest you forget something that you've learned. You've got to go do chazara, make sure that you learn it. Kid Rabbi Abin, like Rabbi Abin says, Amar Rabbi Eloi, in the name of Rabbi Eloi, Amar Rabbi Abin, Amar Eloi, Kol makom shenemar hishamer al pen ve'al, anytime that the pasuk uses the words, the phrase, guard, lest, and don't, elalosa say, that is a prohibition. Ravina, Amar Ravina says, Hishamer pen shnei lavininhu, that Hishamer and pen are two losases. There's two prohibitions. Forget your learning here, because pasuk has both of those phrases. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar Shloshalav, and there's three losases in this pasuk. Shnemar, we'll read the pasuk. Hishamer lecha, that's one. Ushmor nafshecha me'od, that's two. Pentishkach hased dvarim, three losases if you forget your learning. Yochol afilu machmas onzo. What if you're just forgetful? You don't have a good memory. What, now I shouldn't learn because I'm going to forget things, and now I'll get punished. Talmud Lomar, it says, no, pen yasuru milvavacha. It should be turned away from your heart. B'mesira milibo. This is only if you remove it from your heart, hakas medaber. That's where the prohibition is, right? intentionally not chazering or whatever. But if you forget things, that's not your fault. Rabbi Dostoi, Rabbi Dostoi, the son of Rabbi Yanai says, Yochol afilu tukvalav mishnah so. What if, right, you don't understand it, right? It's too hard. I don't understand everything, and therefore I forget it. So therefore, Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, rak means only, meaning it's to reduce. Not everything do you get punished for. If you didn't understand it, you tried, you didn't get it, and you forget it, it's not your fault. That you're not going to get punished for. It's only things that you understood and you don't review and you don't go over it again. That's where the punishment is. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar, both of them say, Torah nitma ba'arba'im. The Torah was given on 40 days, 40 nights. Uneshama notzur ba'arba'im, and the neshama is created in 40 days, as we learned in Mishnah in Maseches Nida, that the child is formed in 40 days. So, kol mishamar Torah so nishmaso mishnat meres. Anybody who guards his Torah, he's guarding his neshama. The kol sheino mishamar Torah. Anybody who's not guarding his Torah, a nishmaso mishnat meres. Then his neshama is not being guarded. Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel says, mashal adam shemaso tzipor dror leavdo. Imagine a person gives a bird to his servant to guard. Amar, he says, he says, look, watch, be careful with this bird. You think that if the bird flies away, I'm just going to make you pay for the bird? No, if the bird flies away, I'm killing you, right? Take care of my stuff. So that's what Hashem's saying. Well, you think it's just a matter of you'll forget your Torah, the punishment is you don't have the Torah? No, if you forget the Torah, you forget your neshama. Okay, keep on going a little bit. If we can have about 6-7 more minutes in order to get to Kuf Amid Aleph. If we can, we'll see. As we described, there were 2 tables inside this antechamber. Al Pesach Habayis, by the doorway. Here's where my father is correct. Al Pesach Echad Shel Shayish. One was marble, not silver. Rashi points out here, it said silver before. It's because it's white, same color. Ve'echad Shel Zahav, and one is gold. Al Shel Shayish Nostim Lechem Apanim B'chnisaso. On the marble one, they would put the Lechem Apanim when they would come in. Val Shel Zahav, on the gold one, B'yitziasa, when they would come out. Shemal B'kodesh V'lo Moridim, because we go up in Kedusha, we don't go down. Echad Shel Zahav B'bifnim, there was a gold table inside the base of Mikdash. She'alav Lechem Apanim Tamid, they had the Lechem Apanim on there all the time. Here was the procedure. V'arba Kohanim Nichnasim, 4 Kohanim would go in. Shnayim B'yadam Shnei Sidarim, 2 of them were holding loaves, stacks of loaves, 6 loaves each. 2 of them were holding the spoonfuls of frankincense. And there were 4 empty-handed kohanim that would go in before them. 2 of them were there to pull off the old loaves. The other ones were there to take the old frankincense off. The ones who were putting the new bread in stood on the north side, and they were facing south. And the other ones were standing on the south, and they were facing the north. So they were facing each other across the table. As this one would slide out the lechem upon him, the other one would slide the new one on, so that it was never without bread. Tifcho shel zeh keneged tifcho shel zeh. They were tefach within a tefach of each other. One would slide out, the other one would slide on. Shnei, as the pasuk says, lefanai tamid. The bread is supposed to be on the shulchan constantly. Rabbi Yossi says, afilu ein ilu notlin ve'elu manichen af hi haisa tamid. Even if this group took the lechem upon him off and left the table empty, and then the other group put it on afterwards, that would still be consistent. It's not a problem unless you leave it off until nightfall, right? Doesn't have to be immediate. Yotsu, so now they took the lechem upon him and they left the base of Mikdash area. They put it on the gold table, which was in the antechamber. Hiktiru bazichin, they then went outside and they burned the frankincense on the mizbeach. Vehachalos mischalkos lekohanim, and then they would divide up the bread to the kohanim of that mishmar. Chal Yom Kippur lios b'Shabbos. If Yom Kippur came out on Shabbos, chachalos mischalkos la'erev. Then they couldn't obviously eat it on Shabbos, so then they would distribute it after Yom Kippur that night. Chal lios be'erev Shabbos. What happens if Yom Kippur falls out on Friday? So then seir shel Yom Kippurim ne'echol la'erev. Then the goat that was sacrificed as a chatos on Yom Kippur can't be eaten on Yom Kippur. So it has to be eaten on Friday night. The Bavloim, we're going to see they were not really Babylonians, they were Egyptians. We're going to ask why they were called Babylonians. These Babylonians would eat it even when it was raw, because they had strong constitutions and they were able to do so. Okay, so now, why do they have to eat it raw? Because if you have ever cooked a brisket, right, you know that it needs to be in the oven for 1.5 hours per pound or something like 1 hour and 15 minutes per pound. And I don't know how much a sheep weighs, but let's say it's 10 pounds. Take 15 hours to cook. You already used up the, there you go. So it's going to take you a long time for it to cook. So therefore, Yom Kippur, they couldn't cook it. They couldn't cook the meat. They couldn't eat the meat. So therefore, they had to wait until nightfall. That nightfall, they would start to cook it. So therefore, these Kohanim were very helpful because they would eat it while it was still raw. Yes, Jeff.
Sorry about that. Bit of a novice user over here. So it's interesting that the Mishnah mentions how Yom Kippur at once managed to fall on like Arab Shabbos.
Could fall out on a Friday. That's right.
Which in this day and age can't happen anymore.
Correct. Lo
right?
Adu Rosh Hashanah cannot fall out on a Sunday, a Wednesday, or a Friday, which means that since Rosh Hashanah can't fall out on a Wednesday, Yom Kippur can't fall out on a Friday.
Right. But I guess there was a time where
because they established that later on, and we'll see that when we get to Mesechas. Where is it in Sukkah, Rosh Hashanah, Eli? Where's that? Do you remember Lo Adu Rosh is? I don't know if Eli remembers. Eli does remember. He's just gonna have to.
Rosh Hashanah.
Huh? You think it's in Rosh Hashanah? Probably. Yeah.
Huh.
So that is that rule was established later on when they were doing the Yom Tovim based on whenever the witnesses came. They didn't have such restrictions.
I see.
So it was possible. That's a good point. Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Yossi says, "Afilu silek es hayishana shachris." Rabbi Yossi again says, you don't have to have the shulchan with bread on it literally all the time. If you took the bread off in the morning, v'sidder es achadosha arvis, and you put the new one on it in the evening, ein bekach klum. That's not a problem. So how do you explain what does lefanai tamid mean? Shelo yalina shulchan belechem. The shulchan shouldn't get to nightfall without any bread on it. Amar Rabbi Ami says, "Midvarav shel Rabbi Yossi." From what Rabbi Yossi is saying, "Nilmod afilu lo shana adam ella perak echad shachris uperak echad arvis ki mitzvahs lo yamush sefer Torah zemipicha." Since if what he's saying is true, that we're supposed to learn Torah constantly, you're supposed to be a masmid. So that means if what Rabbi Yossi is saying is true, I can learn one parak in the morning and one parak at night, and I've learned all day. Same thing as the lechmanim, right? So that's, in fact, the case. Rabbi Yochanan says, Mishum Rabbi Shimon Yochai, the name of Rabbi Shimon Yochai, Afilu Kara Adam Ela Kriya Shema B'Shachas Varvis. If you can't learn all day, and all you can do is say Shema in the morning and at night, Ki Em Lo Yamush, you have fulfilled the pasuk, not of Talmud Torah, but of the pasuk of Lo Yamush, that the Sefer Torah should not stop coming from your mouth. V'davar zeh Aser LaOmra B'Fnei Amaretz, but don't tell in Amharetz this, right? We don't want them to think that's all they got to do. Right? We want them to learn. V'Rav Amarava says, mitzvah l'omra b'fnei Amaretz. No, tell the Amaretz, right? At least he should do this, right? Tell an Amaretz and tell him, you're doing well. Come learn a little bit in the morning, a little in the afternoon. Shal ben Dama ben Achoso shel Rabbi Yishmael es Rabbi Yishmael. So Ben Dama, who was the nephew of Rabbi Yishmael, asked his uncle Rabbi Yishmael, Kigonani shalamanit, he called Torah. He goes, look, I've learned the entire Torah. So ma'u l'mod chachmas yavanis. Can I do some Greek? Can I learn secular studies now? Right? The explanation that they say that it was Aristotle. Can I go learn some Aristotle? Good stuff. I want to learn some other stuff. Karl of Amikrazeh, he said, look, I'll read you this pasuk. It says, Lo yamush sefer Torah zemipicha v'gis b'yom v'layla. You should not have the sefer Torah stop coming from your mouth. You should learn it all day and night. So so fine, just go find some time that's not day and not night.
You could also learn Gemara in Greek as well. If that's also learning Torah.
Yeah, but this is Greek learning, right? Not to learn Torah in Greek, right? So if you could find a time that's not day and not night, then that's when you can learn your secular studies. Upliga, the Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani, but that argues what the Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani says. Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, Rabbi Yonasan, in the name of Rabbi Yonasan, pasuk ze eino lo chova v'lo mitzvah. That pasuk is not a mitzvah you have to learn or a curse if you don't learn. Ela bracha. It is a blessing, meaning Ra HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Yeshua. Hashem saw Yeshua shedivrei Torah chavivim lo bioser. Yeshua loved Torah so much. Shnamar pasuk says by Yeshua, Mishar so Yeshua ben Nun nar lo yamish mitocha ohel. Yeshua wouldn't leave Moshe Rabbeinu's side. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai. Yeshua stayed up there the whole time. He refused to leave because it was so beloved to him. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says about him, Yeshua, kol כך chavim alecha divrei Torah, you love learning so much, lo yamush sefer Torah zeh mipicha, you will not stop learning all day and night. And that was a very important bracha because Yeshua was a tremendous busy person. He's fighting 31 kings of Canaanim. He's dividing up Kahal Yisrael. He's leading the whole nation. He's the posek. And yet, he gets the bracha, lo yamush sefer Torah zeh mipicha. Why? Because he loved Torah so much. Okay? So that is, it's a bracha. Since you learn it, you love it so much, you will be able to learn it. Tana debei Rabbi Yishmael, learning the brayso of Rabbi Yishmael, divrei Torah lo yu alecha chova. When you're learning, it shouldn't feel like you're obligated to learn. It should feel like something you want to do, right? Ve'iyata rashai liftor atzmecha mehen. And you done, and you're never allowed to be done. Don't think, oh, I finished, I'm done, right? You're not done. It's always another mesechta. It goes around in a circle. Amar Chizkiah. Chizkiah says, "My dichsiv." What do you mean when the pasuk says, "Vav hisischa mipitzar"? That Hashem, it says about Hashem that He seduces you from the small opening. What does that mean? Rachav lo mutzak tachteha. The wide is not opened before underneath him. So bo a. So come and see. Shalok midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu midas basar v'dam. Hashem is not like human beings. Midas basar v'dam adam mesis es chavero midarchi chaim midarchi misa. Human beings are always trying to seduce each other to do the wrong things, right? Come do the wrong thing. Come do this with me, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does Hashem do? Hashem is always trying to seduce us to do the right things. Shenamar Zabasik says, Hashem is trying to seduce us from the narrow opening. What is the narrow opening? Gehenna has a very narrow opening. Why? Because sha'ashnat savor betocha, because the smoke, it's very fiery and smoky in there. So you get a narrow opening to keep the smoke in, right? V'shema tomar kishem shepiatzar kach kula tzara. You might think, well, if the opening is small, maybe the whole thing is very small. Talmud Lomar, therefore it says hamik v'rechiv. It goes deep and wide. Shema tomar lamelech. Maybe a Talmud Chacham will say, maybe a Talmud Chacham. Lo huchna. Maybe you'll say a Talmid Chacham that stops learning, right? Maybe he doesn't get his Gehenna. So Talmud Lomar, it says Gam hi la melech huchan, is prepared for the melech, like for the holy person who stops learning, that he is also going to get Gehenna. V'shema tomer ein ba eitzim. Maybe you'll think, okay, Gehenna can run out of wood, right? Runs out of fire every once in a while. Talmud Lomar, therefore the pasuk says Medurasa Eish ve'etzim harbe. Its pillar of fire has fire and wood a lot. Don't worry, it's got plenty of stuff. It's very hot down there. V'shema tomar zehu schara. Maybe say, okay, great. That's why we should learn in order to avoid Gehenna. That's it, right? Learn to avoid Gehenna. Talmud Lomar, it says Menachos shulchancha malei deshen, and your table, right? Your table will be filled with delights. Right? So therefore, it's not that you're just going to learn Torah in order to avoid Gehenna, but you also get a amazing amount of good stuff. Okay. Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. Then it's going to be the next day. We're going to eat it that night. So those Babylonians were eating it raw. So Amar Rabbi Barachana says Rabbi Yochanan, Lo Bavloim, they were not Babylonians. Alexandrium, they were Alexandrians. Mitoch shesonin es habavliim kornosam al shem bavliim. It's just that the Chum don't like Babylonians. So therefore, they called these people who were doing something that was a little bit disturbing, they called them Babylonians. So why don't they like the Babylonians? So Rashi says because right? The Babylonians were always ate in disgusting ways. They had no love affair with the Babylonians. So Tanya Nami Hachi. We have a brisa that supports this as well. Rabbi Yossi says, Lo Bavloim, they were not Babylonians, Alexandrian, they were Alexandrians. Because the Jewish people the Chacham did not like the Babylonians. Kornason al Shem Bavliim. They were called Babylonians, right? And Amar Lo Rabbi Yehuda says, Tenuach dat choshe nachta dati. He says, phew, because my family is from Bavel. And so, therefore, I am glad to hear that it was not my family or people from Babylonia that were actually eating in this way. They were just called that because the non-Jewish Babylonians they didn't like. Okay, that's to stop the Mishnah.
Wow, go ahead, beautiful. That was fascinating, Rabbi Loiterman. That was fascinating.
Good stuff.
I have to tell you, I'm still. Hang on a second, I'm still a bit dismayed that this image. And you guys see this?
Yes.
Yep.
This image is misleading.
Incorrect.
All this time, I thought they somewhat got it right over here.
Right.
But no, this is not how the poles were inserted into the ark.
You should sue them.
Was that Indiana Jones?
This is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes.
Indiana Jones is on the right.
Yep,
no,
that is correct.
Yeah. No, that's Harrison Ford.
Correct.
His friend Salah on the left.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How
do I? Because I לימדתי בארץ ישראל 2 שנים.
יפה מאוד.
All right, fantastic. Shkoyach for your sponsorship.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm late. I just had a family thing.
Quite all right.
It's done.
Quite all right.
At least I showed up.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'll see you on Thursday, Rabbi.
Thursday, we resume at our regular time, 8 p.m.
8 p.m. on Thursday.
We're at 8. Have a great meeting with Rabbi Bender tomorrow.
Thank you.
And a safe flight back.
There's no class tomorrow?
No.
Unfortunately not. I will be traveling even worse than tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're
get a refund?
You're expected to review all of this that we went through today.
That's right.
Exactly.
Can I get a refund now?